Alright, unfortunately, it is time for our first wildfire update and forecast of the 2021 season, where we'll be looking at the Willow Fire in Monterey County. You can actually see some of the smoke coming off of this fire right now. Winds are mostly from the south, so you can see some of that smoke blowing into the Salinas Valley, although winds will be shifting more westerly later today, so we'll start to see that smoke direction change. But that right there is the Willow Fire. If we want to look at the fire itself, you can see it was burning this morning, some of that smoke settling in the valley. I'd say a couple things I notice first things that pop out to me are one, how steep the terrain is. That's one of the big factors that plays into wildfire spread and growth. And then the other thing I notice is how dry a lot of these fuels look. We'll be actually looking at the fuel moistures and the drought index later in this video. So that will start to make sense why those fuels look so dry right there. But my favorite map to always check is the satellite imagery. They take some hotspots using satellite data and actually put it over the fire perimeter. So click in here and see where this fire is burning right now. So you can see where the fire perimeter was yesterday. Once this loads, I have about 20 tabs open, so it will be a little bit slow. You can see where that fire perimeter was yesterday. And then you can see where it has burned in the last 24 hours. Where you see those little hot spots, that is the more recent growth. So you can see that winds have mostly been from the west. So that's why a lot of that fire growth yesterday is moving towards the east. And then where you see those yellow dots, that's where the fire is burning the most intensely. So that looks like it's more on the southeastern edge of this fire. And when we look at the winds later in this video, I'm predicting more fire spread to the east, and with the winds that we have, some spotting will be possible throughout the day today. But when it comes to just the stats for this fire, you can see we are at 2,000 acres. It started on June 17th, and if we go down to some of the details, you can see that right now there are 337 personnel on this fire. Currently 2,000 acres. It's burning in steep, rugged, and bushy terrain. As you saw in that first imagery, a lot of that fuel does look pretty dry, and it makes sense when you think about some of the weather that we've been having recently. We'll go into the full weather forecast later, but if you just think the last few days, it's been in the triple digits down in this area. Relative humidities have been in the single digits. The one factor that has actually been working in our favor is the winds have just been around 5 to 10 miles per hour, which is a lot better than some of those large fires that we get in California where the winds are over 50 miles per hour. So if we look at the air quality map right now, surprisingly, we're actually not getting any air quality alerts in the Monterey County area. Most of the air quality in that moderate range right there is actually in the valley due to that heat wave. But if we click on the forecast, you can see some of that poor to moderately unhealthy air quality is actually going to be spreading out throughout California. It does cover Monterey County, but I would say this is actually more due to the current heat wave than any smoke from that fire. So if we want to take a look at the heat wave, this basically sums up what's going on. There's an excessive heat warning covering almost all of California. This has been going on over the last 2 days. I would say the good news is this heat wave seemed to peak yesterday. A lot of our temperatures seem to be going down, and especially along the coast, which is great news when it comes to our fire. Temperatures certainly have been coming down over the last 24 hours, and I expect that to continue over the next few days. So if we want to see why this excessive heat warning is in place, one final thing I will note, Monterey County is no longer covered in that excessive heat warning. We were in that warning the last 2 days. So when it comes to this fire, it's great to see that we're no longer covered in that scary magenta color right there. But if we want to see why this heat wave has been happening in California, it's this large high pressure system that's just been sitting over California for a number of days. And that's what really primed a lot of our fuels for easy ignitions. And you can see that is still going to be over us throughout the weekend. It's going to be warm for your Father's Day weekend, Saturday and Sunday. But I will say there is some good news on the horizon. Towards the start of next week, Monday and Tuesday, it actually looks like there's a little trough coming in, which will cool our temperatures down, really start to spread out that marine layer into our coast, which will certainly help with this fire. So just one one last look at some of the extreme temperatures across the state. You can see places like Fresno and Bakersfield as high as 114 degrees. Some parts in southeastern California might even hit 120 today. Now the good news is our areas along the coast have started to cool off a little bit as that marine influence has started to play a bigger role in the last 24 hours. Now this might be the most important part of the video so far, where we look at the most important factors that play a role in wildfire to create a forecast for what this fire might do in the future. So big 4 factors we're going to be looking at. 1, temperature. That makes sense. The warmer it is, the worse wildfire is going to be. Winds. The higher your winds are, the faster the fire is going to spread. It can lead to spotting, where it actually picks up embers from the fire, throws it out ahead of the major blaze, and starts new little fires. Another factor we're looking at is relative humidity. That's how dry the air is. Because when you think about it, if you've ever tried to start a campfire and you're using a moist log or a dry log, it makes sense that a dry log is much easier to start a fire and it burns a lot faster and hotter. So if the air is dry, your fuels are going to be dry as well. And that's the last factor we'll actually look at. We'll dive into the fuel moistures themselves in this area to see how dry those fuels are. But first, we'll just take a look at the temperatures. At 10 a.m., it was already 83 degrees right where our fire is located. I used the exact latitude and longitude for our fire, so these variables that you see right here will actually be directly over the fire perimeter. So 83 degrees already at 10 a.m., so certainly still warm, even though it's not in the triple digits anymore like it was the last couple of days. But looking at our afternoon highs today, it is certainly still going to be hot, up to 85 degrees later this afternoon. So that I would not say is very good news. The other bad news when it comes to our temperatures is they're not dropping down very much in the overnight hours. During the overnight hours, we remain in the 70s, so we're not really getting any relief where this fire can really start to calm down. It's able to burn into the overnight hours. Now, where we do start to get some relief, you can see temperatures continue to come down a little bit on Sunday afternoon. The high temperatures for Sunday look to be 81 degrees. And then Sunday night, we start to get more of that marine influence back into the 60s in the overnight hours. And then Monday, that cooling trend continues. We actually get back into the 70s. So temperature-wise, yesterday was worse than today, and today is going to be worse than tomorrow. So we're trending in the right direction. That's at least some good news there. It's a similar story when it comes to our relative humidities. The air out there is extremely dry, so like I said, that makes your fuels drier, makes it easier for the fire to spread. And just like the temperatures, we're not getting any relief in the overnight hours, and in some cases, it actually looks like we're even drier in the overnight hours due to an inversion that has been taking place over the last few days. Basically what that means, your air remains dry even during the overnight hours, which is actually not normal. It's not normal to have 18% relative humidity as early as 5 in the morning. So unfortunately, I'm thinking we will see some fire growth in the overnight hours tonight, and then throughout the day tomorrow, we're still looking relatively warm, still relative humidities in the teens. But where we start to get some relief is Sunday night. Some of that relative humidity starts to come up, and then if we just fast forward into Monday night, that's when the marine layer really returns, that trough builds in, we get some cooler temperatures, and relative humidity goes all the way up to 70%. So I think Monday night into Tuesday morning is really where our firefighters can really get a good handle on this blaze, as the conditions will be much more favorable. Now, one other area I would say that is actually some good news, if we look at the wind gusts for this fire, the winds haven't been all that strong. The sustained winds just around 5 to 10 miles per hour. Wind gusts just around 15 to 20. So I would say that is the one factor that has really been working in our favor when it comes to the Willow Fire, because in my opinion, the winds are actually the most important aspect, because that's what can lead to spotting and some really rapid fire spread. So wind-wise, I'd say we've been looking good. We're going to continue to look good. So that is actually some great news when it comes to the Willow Fire. Now, while that's some good news, there is still some bad news. Like I said, temperatures the last few days have been extremely warm, going to remain warm over the next 48 hours. As we saw, those relative humidities are looking very dry even in the overnight hours, so a lot of our fuel moistures are about as dry as you're ever going to see them. This is actually measuring how much water is in the plants, and you can see almost all of California at this point is looking about as dry as you're ever going to see it. Part of the reason for that is just the long-term effects from the California drought. You can see that right above Monterey County where the Willow Fire is burning, we are in that extreme drought category. So really, out of all of our wildfire factors, when you think about temperature, winds, humidity, fuel moisture, drought category, all the things that go into fire danger, we're checking all the wrong boxes except for maybe that wind category that has been working in our favor. So we'll just take one last look at this fire as it continues to burn this morning. You're actually seeing some more of that smoke popping up in the more recent hours, so I'm certainly going to be keeping my eye on this fire all day long. I'll actually be on KSBW tonight, Channel 8, at 6 o'clock and 11 o'clock, where I will do some updates on this fire, and we'll certainly keep our eye on it over the Father's Day weekend. As temperatures do remain warm, we will want to keep our eye to see just what happens with this Willow Fire. So thank you for watching, and I hope you can all stay safe. Have a good one.